An attempt at recording this podcast, and I forgot to turn on the microphone, and I almost wasted time. Case of FOMO that a human being has ever had. Now, he's only 9 years old. We're going to give him some grace. Would wet his pants to miss the movie. We'd go to the bathroom. I'm just going to pee myself and deal with the consequences. He would do the same thing. Woo! We are so back, baby. Welcome to week 4 of the No Ceilings pod. I appreciate you for tuning in. Thanks for being here with me. I just had to turn on the microphone and I almost wasted time. Today's episode is all about taking a little bit of extra time to provide a quality ramp up to what you're wanting to complete. Today's podcast is titled, are you ready for this? Slow down to go fast, replacing reactive rushing with intentional pace. I'm going to say that one more time. Slow down to go fast, replacing reactive rushing with intentional pace. That is what today's podcast is all about, and I am extremely excited to cover this topic. The reason why is because, candidly, this is something that I need the most help with. So this week, I'm actually talking to myself. This is a message to Corey. You need to slow down to go fast. I've had a couple watershed moments over the last few months of how this concept can put you into such a better position into accomplishing your goals, advancing in your career, advancing in your fitness, your family life. Slow down to go fast. So let's dive right in. An amazing quote from one of the winningest basketball coaches of all time is Mr. John Wooden, and he perfectly personifies the message here when we're talking about slowing down to go fast. So I'll read the quote verbatim. If you don't have time to do it right now, if you don't have time to do it right, when will you have time to do it over? Let me read it again. If you don't have time to do it right, when will you have time to do it over? It's a perfect picture of what this concept is all about. So John Wooden, if you didn't know, is a basketball coach of UCLA. He won a ton of championships, a lot of basketball games, and he was well known throughout the college space as having really intense practices, but very intentional practices, where he focused on every minute detail of his basketball team and how they approach practice every single day. And what it equated to was a lot of wins and a lot of championships. And he is revered as one of the greatest coaches of all time. And he was well aware of this concept. You can go into a basketball practice and you can tornado that thing, get a bunch of shots up, get a bunch of cardio in, put in and install a game plan, and then move on to the game on Saturday, and hopefully something good happens. But his approach was very meticulous, every aspect of the game. I'm sure a lot of these practices were very, very slow, where they were installing the pieces in which he knows that they needed in order to be successful. And John Wooden broke it down to be simple, but not easy, where you need to slow down, you need to be intentional, and you needed to focus on the details that lead to success and winning. Now, John Wooden coached a long time ago, and you may not love basketball. So I'm going to give you a couple of real world applications that happened in my life. So I have a son. His name is Beckett. He's 9 years old. And Beckett has the worst case of FOMO that a human being has ever had. Now, he's only 9 years old. We're going to give him some grace. But Beckett does not like to miss out. Fear of missing out lives in this kid. Just to help understand how intense his fear of missing out is, back in the day, someone that is a kid that is way too old to be peeing himself, he would wet his pants because he didn't want to miss the movie. We'd be sitting there, we'd be watching a movie, and he would be so fearful of missing the next scene in the movie that he would make the decision that I can't get up and go to the bathroom. I'm just going to pee myself and deal with the consequences. He would do the same thing at school on the playground. He'd be having the best time ever playing tag with his friends, and he didn't want the fun to end, and he didn't want to take the risk of going into school and having recess end. So he would get to the brink where he couldn't hold it anymore, and he'd actually wet himself. We'd have to go up to the school, give him a change of clothes because his teacher would call us. So that's just who we're dealing with here. Is he has missed answers. He's not writing in complete sentences. His handwriting is atrocious. It is so bad. It's hieroglyphics. You cannot make out his handwriting. And he wants to now move on to the next thing where he can go play in the backyard or he can do something in his room. He just wanted to blast through it. And the good news is Beckett gets done with it really quick, right? It takes him 5 minutes. Boom, done, speeds through it. And then Sky comes in and checks his work. That's not a complete sentence. This one is spelled wrong. I can't read this at all. You clearly weren't writing from the top of the page down. He has a really bad habit when it comes to writing. Erase that, erase that, erase that, erase that. Do this one over. It can't even read this. Do it over. And this goes back and forth. And it's a really bad habit, but it goes back and forth for probably 20 to 25 minutes. And then the end result is we get some tears. We have some frustration. Sky's frustrated. Beckett's frustrated. We're about 30 minutes in for an assignment that should take 10 minutes. And there's erase marks everywhere. It looks like crap, but now it is all answered correctly. We did homework the right way. And now he can go and play. Now, the story lies right in line with the concept of what we're talking about, to slow down in order to go fast. Do it right rather than doing it over. Beckett could take the time and do it right up front. Take a deep breath, slow down, and write legibly in clear sentences. And he knows the answers. He's a really smart kid. And it would take him 7 to 10 minutes. But instead, Beckett, like a lot of people, are running around, chasing their tail, speeding through it to get through it as quickly as possible. And then we pick our head up and we end up with that result. That is a great example. Not to call Beckett out, let's move on to me. Again, this is something that I need to work on. I'm talking to myself here. Slow down to go fast. I have been seeing the same dentist for about 5 years. And this dentist shoots me straight. She's always super direct with me, and I appreciate it. And every time I go into the dentist, I sit down in the chair, and I never have a cavity. Shout out to me. No career cavities in the history of having any cavities. So I'm happy with that. And I have a system. I feel good about it. I brush my teeth twice a day and no cavities. So you can't argue those results, right? Well, every time I would see this girl, she would go through my gums and my gums would start to bleed. And it was painful and it sucked. I honestly hated going to the dentist after a few first times of meeting with her. And she grades your gums between a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the worst, 1 being the best. And you're looking at gum disease. And gum disease is a very serious issue. I'm not a dentist, but this is what she tells me. And this is back in the day. This is about up until about a year ago. She would go through and she would get frustrated. And she would say, "Are you flossing?" And I would say, "I get into flossing and then I kind of forget, but no cavities." And she's like, "You need to floss." I was like, "Okay, I'm sorry." And she, "Are you using the water pick that I told you to get?" "No, I never ended up getting that." "Are you doing X, Y, and Z?" "No, I'm not doing that." "Okay, well, you have 4s and 5s. If you come, the last time I was there about a year ago, she said, if you come in here again and we have 4s and 5s, I'm going to have to recommend surgery. So that made me take pause. And that made me say, okay, this is probably more serious than I'm giving it credit for. And I told her, I'm going to commit to properly taking care of my teeth and my gums. So the next time you see me, you're going to be so happy. You're going to be so proud of me. And long story short, I looked it up, right? I did the research. I took the time. I slowed down. And I said, hey, on average, how long are you supposed to brush your teeth for? And if you're listening to this and you already know the answer to this, you're probably going to think that I'm an idiot. But again, I'm just moving too fast through life. This message is for me. But the answer is 2 minutes. And to me, I would brush my teeth for maybe 30 seconds. Just I'd be thorough. I'd be getting in there. I'm doing the circles. She told me to do the circles. And, wham, bam, thank you, man. Mouth feels fresh. Never had a cavity. Let's go. Roll out of there. So I said, okay, I got to commit to brushing my teeth for a lot longer. The first time that I brushed my teeth, I had a timer and I set the timer for 2 minutes. I was shocked how long that 2 minutes felt. I was like, have people actually brushed their teeth this long? And it blew my mind. But that's what you're supposed to do. That's what the internet says. We trust the internet in this case. So I started brushing my teeth 2 minutes every single time. Every time I brush my teeth, morning and evening, I would get my phone out, I would set a 2 minute timer, and I would not veer off of that. Same thing with floss. I put the floss right next to the toothbrush to remind myself you need to floss every single time. The flossing takes me an extra minute. It's only an extra minute, but it's tedious. I'm going through my teeth. I'm doing the flossing. I'm saying I got to do this. I committed to it. I don't want to have surgery. And anywho, I've done this for about a year now, ish, a little bit under that. And the last time that I went to the dentist, she gave me all ones besides 1, 2, which is the side that I chew on. And she told me that this is the best my gums have ever been. And I said, hey, I appreciate it. I told you I could do it. Let's avoid surgery. She gave me a high five. I went on my day. And that is just another lesson that we're talking about 3 extra minutes of care twice a day, 3 extra minutes. And that can allow me to have much better health in terms of gums. But if I didn't take the 3 extra minutes per day and I was being very reactive and helter skelter and trying to get through that so I can jump into bed and watch a TV show, then guess what? I got to clear my calendar and I got to have surgery. And I got to clear my bank account and I got to pay for surgery. And I'm going to have potential issues in the future in which I have to continue to work on my teeth because there's too much damage that had been done because I didn't take the time to slow down and to go fast. Now, this isn't necessarily homework. This isn't teeth, but this is a serious thing because over enough time of going too fast and not being thorough and not being intentional, what happens is that starts to erode, your standard starts to erode, and you pick your head up and you're really not happy with where you're at. And it could have been avoided by a couple of small changes and slowing down. Now, the reason why I'm talking to myself today and where I picked this up from was from training for my first half Ironman last year. So to rewind and to tell the story, in June of last year, after I ran a marathon, it was the end of June, so call it July actually, I started training for a half Ironman. And for those who don't know, it's 70.3 mile race. It's a 1.2 mile swim. It's a 56-mile bike ride, and it's a 13.1 run, half marathon. And you have to do that all in one sitting. And I had never swam before. I know how to swim. I can stay afloat and I can get my body moving, but I never swam intentionally before. I never tried to swim a long distance. But based off what I know about swimming and feeling that I'm in good physical shape, I told myself July until December to do the race. We're talking 5 months. I can do that. I can figure it out by then. 1.2 miles is actually not that far. So anywho, fast forward, I start swimming and I start working on training. And I quickly realize that I am in over my head. A little intermission from Beckett. I quickly realize that I'm in over my head. And I find that swimming is much more difficult than I originally believed. So I spent 5 months learning how to swim so I could accomplish the half Ironman. Now, to Quentin Tarantino, to flash forward to the end, I did complete the swim. I ended up going from not being able to swim 80 yards without being out of breath to being able to swim 1.2 miles to make it all the way through and then to go onto a bike and to jump into a run after the fact. Now, the pain in between there, that 5 months, was very, very difficult, but it did teach me a valuable lesson, which is I needed to slow down to go fast. So specifically when it came to training, I listened to a podcast. I did some research on how to properly learn how to swim. And while I did all that digging and did all that understanding, what one person said, I think it was in a YouTube video that I watched, was if you don't take learning to swim seriously, and if you don't take the time to understand the form, the breathing, the cadence, what you're going to end up doing is you're going to spend hours in the pool. And you're going to train the wrong way, and you're going to pick your head up, and you're going to have a lot of bad habits. It'd be very similar to learning how to golf the wrong way and doing it for hours and hours a day, and then pick your head up, and then you have a lot of bad habits as far as golfer goes. So that was a watershed moment for me because I'm the personality type where I'm a bull in a china shop. I just keep pounding towards that end result. I just keep taking action to try to get there, but I never really focused on form or intentionality. I just knew it took effort, and I'll put in the effort because I know what it takes. I'll do it, but to avoid spending hours in the pool that wouldn't lead to becoming a better swimmer was taking a step back and understanding that I need to slow down to go fast. Now, that's not a very fun process, right? When you're in the pool and you're training and you're trying to figure out how to swim and you're pulling the advice from friends, from trainers, from people in the area, from swim coaches, you really get exposed really quickly. It's like riding a very complicated bike is the way that I describe it. But when I'm in these training sessions, I had a couple training sessions with friends that swam in college. They could swim like fish. Like they could just swim up and down, do the laps, and I'm over there struggling hard. And the ego has to get put aside, and the feeling of trying to look cool has to get put aside because you don't look cool during that process. But I did decide to put the ego aside. I did decide to say, screw it. I don't care if I look dumb. I need to learn this because I have a very serious swim that's coming up in 5 months. And slowing down, putting the ego aside, and focusing on form was the mission. And it took me 2 months probably before I really could swim without having to pick my head up and stop and almost have a heart attack. And a lot of that was just slowing down in order to get to where I wanted to go. So you put the ego aside, you don't worry about looking dumb. You say, I'm going to do this the right way. I'm going to focus on form rather than I'm just going to put in hours. And that's what everybody does, right? Like you put in the hours. I'm in the pool. I'm doing the thing. I showed up to the gym. I'm doing the thing. I'm eating the diet, but they pick their head up and they're not happy with the results is because you didn't take the time to slow down and focus on the right way to do it much more than the actual hours in the gym or in the pool or spent on the computer or whatever the actual goal is. So that is the concept, right? Slow down in order to move fast. So we understand the concept. And I'm a work in progress in that concept. But since July of last year and learning that lesson, I have picked up on some things that have very much helped. So I want to share that with you. So number one, there is a mantra that I repeat to myself, I would say on average between 3 and 7 times a day. Not an exact science on that estimate, but 3 to 7 times a day, I repeat this mantra to myself. And the mantra goes, how you do one thing is how you do everything. How you do one thing is how you do everything. Now, I learned this quote from one of my VPs way back in the day. Way back in the day, I think I was 25 years old. I was just getting started in my career, and I was in Detroit, Michigan, and I worked for a mortgage company. And back then, we did everything over the phone, and you had to hustle and you had to grind like a lot of salespeople do. And I spent, I believe, 14 hours that day in the office. 14 hours in the office. And it got to the point where it was 9 o'clock at night and I was the last one in the office and I was still working because I was still learning. I was not very efficient. I didn't have a lot going on, didn't have a family or kids. So, why not work? And I was very tired. And I'm on the phone with a client and there's a very specific play. There's a very specific script that you're supposed to do when it comes to requesting documents in a timely fashion from a client. And again, it's 9 o'clock at night. I'm exhausted. There's no one in the office. No one there is going to see me do this, right? And I half-ass the script. I don't run it at all. I very lazily asked for this person's documents, and I just wanted to get off the phone and go fast. I want to go home. I want to put my head on the pillow. I'm tired. I hang up the phone with the client, and then my VP calls me right as I hang up the phone with the client. And I was like, oh, crap. When you're new and you have a VP calling you at 9 o'clock at night, that is not a good feeling because usually it's something very, very bad going on. So your heart sinks to your stomach. Now I'm awake. Now my adrenaline's pumping and I pick up the phone call and he didn't say hi. He didn't say, how are you? He didn't say, it's awesome that you're working at 9 o'clock. He said, what the hell was that? And my response was, what do you mean? Just totally taken off guard. And, you had the way in which you could listen to people's phone calls. We call it eye in the sky, and you could listen to calls. And he just happened to be listening to phone calls at home. Interesting way to spend your Thursday night, but he was, and he saw me on the telephone. So he clued in, called me. He said, what the heck was that? What do you mean? That is not how we post close is what we call it. That's not the script. What was that? That was super lazy. And I'm tired, right? And I've had it. I'm ready to get out of the office, and it's time to give this guy an excuse. And I say, I hear you. Honestly, I'm just tired. I've been here for 14 hours. I need to go home and get some food. I need to go home and get some rest. I'm expecting some empathy and some sympathy because, it's a pity party, right? Like, I'm tired. I'm not going to run the play. I'm exhausted. And his response was, Corey, let me teach you a valuable lesson. How you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you decide to be elite in how you do one thing, you'll be elite in how you do everything. If you decide to be inconsistent in how you do something, you're going to be inconsistent in everything that you do. It's who you are. It's a standard that you set. It's what you believe you're worthy of. And you need to make the decision that the thing that you do, the one thing that you do is how you do everything. And you want that to be great because you have a lot of potential and you can be a great banker one day. And fast forward to today, I feel like I'll give myself a pat on the back. I've won a lot of awards. I've been able to build out a beautiful life. And that was a moment amongst a lot of moments that really changed things for me because it is a decision. It's always a decision that you get to make that how I'm going to do this is going to be intentional with who I believe I am. And I personally believe I'm an elite individual that deserves great things. And when I show up on my day to day and I run into adversity and I run into things that I don't want to do, or I have to put a lot of thought into something, I say that to myself. How you do one thing is how you do everything. How are you going to do this here, Corey? And then I get really intentional. I slow down and I go fast and thorough. So how you do one thing is how you do everything really helps me out. Say it to yourself as much as you can. Another thing that really helps me out is planning out my week. So if I'm going to slow down to go fast, I need to have a plan. Personally, I'm one of those people that live and die by a calendar. So we have a family calendar at home, which I do my best to keep in touch with, but I would be lying if I didn't say I have to text Sky often to figure out what time something is happening, if I'm picking up or dropping off. So I got opportunity there, but I'm working on it. But in terms of work and in terms of my personal accomplishments that I'm looking to take on, I have to plan my week. So every Sunday, I plan my week and I put probably an hour and a half into planning. And in that planning, I'm building out my calendar. I'm putting things on my calendar. I'm mapping out my weekly goals. I'm building out my weekly tracker. I'm putting the how I'm going to be doing things in terms of work and what I'm hoping to accomplish. I'll put my workouts in place for Monday through Sunday. And I have everything built out. The calendar is built out. My numbers are built out. How I'm going to do it is built out. How I'm going to interact with my team is built out. My Monday presentation is built out. It takes an hour and a half. It takes a long time. It used to take a lot longer, but I've been doing it a lot over the years. And you may say to yourself, Corey, you're burning an hour and a half into planning on your Sunday. Like, wouldn't you rather just enjoy your Sunday? And I know that slowing down and planning out the week will save me so much more time during the week that it's worth the investment. We oftentimes make the decision to avoid the extra upfront in order to have an easy time right now, but it makes it much harder for us down the road. What's hard to do now makes it easy to do in the future, and weekly planning is a big part of that. So if you get into your weeks and you feel like you're chasing your tail, and we've all been there, and you pick your head up at the end of the day and you're exhausted, but you have nothing to show for it. A big reason why is this not slowing down and planning the week in order to go fast and efficient on your week. So weekly planning is crucial. At least it is for me. It works for me. I highly recommend it. Now, I've gone over this before, but this is a concept that I am very, very passionate about. And this is one of the big drivers that has helped me level up over the last 5 years as I work on personally developing and leveling up as a human being. And that has to do with creating more time. So you may be saying to yourself, dude, I appreciate I should slow down in order to go fast. And I appreciate what you're saying makes sense, that I need to be more thorough and more conscious of how I do things so it can be more quality for myself. But man, I don't have time. There's 24 hours in the day and I need like 28 hours to get all of this done. And I just throw my hands up at the end of the week and like I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best with what I got. And the reality is, and I don't want to be hard on you, but you're telling yourself a story that's not true. You're not doing your best. If you can't handle everything that you've committed to on the week, you actually are not doing your best. And the reason why you're not doing your best is because you're making the decision to not have enough time to accomplish it all. So you end up half-assing it and you keep pushing it off. And if you don't have time to do it right now, then when are you going to have time to do it over later? The old John Wooden quote. I'm so passionate about this. I can't jump on the rooftop and say this more. But when it comes to creating time, more time in order to slow down to go fast, you need to actually create more time. And how you create more time is by waking up earlier. So, you can look at all the fun stats and there's a bunch of quotes out there and different things that show, CEOs and millionaires and billionaires, they all wake up at 5 a.m. There's all those things. But just to break it down to be very simple, you can create more time for yourself. If you're waking up at 7 a.m. and you're running around chasing your tail all day, and then your head hits the pillow at 11 p.m. and you're ready to go to sleep, and you're like, what happened back there? Move the clock up an hour, 6 a.m. And from 6 to 7, get a running start on your day. Like that is the thing. That's the thing that we're avoiding here. You got to create more time so then you can do this. You create more time, you slow down, you intentionally be thorough, and you'll be very surprised and happy with how accomplished you feel at the end of the day. That is the thing here. Now you can go crazy and wake up at 3:45 a.m. like I do. You need sleep. You absolutely need sleep. But I think what I've found is that when you're up that early, you don't get text messages, you don't get phone calls, you don't get emails, you don't have the kids asking where you're at, you don't have your wife asking you to do something. You are totally by yourself, which allows you to prioritize the things that you need to do that day in that window before life comes at you and starts tugging and pulling you in different directions. So if you're feeling like I want to do this, but there's not enough time in the day, create more time in the day. You can do it. If this is actually something that you want, make it a need. Don't make it a want, make it a need. I need this. I don't like the way that things are going right now. I actually need this. Move the alarm clock up and commit to doing it. And I promise you will not be disappointed with the results. It will put you in such a better position. Now, when you wake up, right, what you don't want to do is you got all this extra time, but now you got to prioritize and now you got to take action. So it's not just creating the time. It's not just setting the alarm early and waking up. You got to be intentional with that extra time that you created. So the way that I'm intentional with the time that I created is I'm big on to-do lists, very big on to-do lists. So the way in which I complete my to-do lists is I have a physical pen and paper that's with me at my desk that I build out my to-do list. And I actually got this from Ed Milet, who's one of my favorites. And my to-do list is not just the whole day. I break my to-do list into 3 different to-do lists in the day, and he calls it time mending. But essentially what it allows you to do is pick a specific checkpoint in your day to get X, Y, and Z done. And it creates some urgency because that time clock is not, okay, I got I got all day to do this. I have until noon. So I'll break it down for you. From 4 a.m. to 12 noon, I have one to-do list. And I write it down. Everything that I need to do goes on that to-do list, whether it's for my business or whether it's for personal or for the family or a workout, it's going on my to-do list and I'm building it out. And then I check it off and I try to go with pace, but I try to do it as intentional as possible and thoroughly as possible. And I really need to check this thing off before I get to noon. And that allows me to run with a pace that noon's coming up. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. You don't have time to think about, I got some time here. And that's the first to-do list is from 4 a.m. to 12. And then when I make it to 12, it's from 12 to 4 p.m. is my second to-do list. So I turn the page and then I have a brand new to-do list that I have to focus on. And from 12 to 4 p.m., it's a brand new, this is what I need to attack because the day had started at that point. There's things coming at me that I can't control. And there's new things that I need to accomplish and need to take on. So from 12 to 4, I'm checking off the list. I'm running towards it. The time is ticking. I'm being intentional and I have it right in front of me. The visual is getting crossed off and it feels good when you cross something off of the to-do list. And then when I get to 4 p.m., from 4 to 10, which is like right when I go to sleep, that's my last to-do list. And that mostly is family time. So I don't really have to write that one down, but I do have responsibilities. I got gymnastics. I got basketball. Well, the kids do. I drive them there. I have date nights. I have, time, just free time with kids. I sometimes have phone calls for work that, some people can't meet until after hours. So we put that on the to-do list. I got to make dinner, all those things. The 4 to 10, candidly, is more of a mental to-do list. I'm not rolling around with the piece of paper. But from 4 a.m. to noon and from noon to 4, that's a physical piece of paper that I'm checking off of the list. So I create more time in the morning by waking up early. And then I write down everything that I need to do in order to accomplish my goals. And I check them off and I create urgency because these are all time bound that I need to do the to-do list within. So that has really, really served me well. And if you're thinking to yourself and you've gotten to this point of the podcast and you say, I'm sold, I'm going to slow down to go fast. This seems like a better way of life and I'm looking for that. But man, that sounds exhausting. You must take a lot of energy drinks. You must have Celsius mainlined into your veins. And that's not the case. Another quote that had changed my life, and I guess I have a lot of quotes that changed my life, but another one that changed my life is from my boy, Eddie Milet. And it's in his book, The Power of One More. And this is a book that I read 5 years ago that has spurred me on this journey that I've been on and why I'm in front of you talking on a podcast. And in this book, what he said that changed my life is he has found that most people aren't tired from too much activity. Most people are tired because of inactivity. Most people are tired because of inactivity, meaning you sit on the couch and you take a breath and you feel like I need to take a load off right here. I'm just going to rest for a little bit instead of moving on to the next thing. And I found that to be extremely true. I've done it both ways where I can't sit down. I got to keep going and I stay energized because it's a momentum. It's an energy. It's a feeling that you're continuing to roll through your day. And I've also done man, I'm a little tired, a little sleepy. Let me sit down on the couch. Oh, The Office is on. I love The Office. And then watch The Office for 5 minutes and I'm exhausted. I'm beat. I need to, get me a blanket. Let me put the head on the pillow. Let me relax for a second. And don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with relaxing. There's times to relax. I'm not saying you have to be like a crazy person 24/7, 365. But in your week and when you have a full to-do list, you shouldn't look at that as this is going to be so tiring. You should look at that as let me put one foot in front of the other and see where I get and continue to move. And what you'll find, at least what I've found, is you stay energized the whole day. People ask me all the time, like, how do you wake up that early and how do you have that much energy right now? And I just keep going. I just continue on. I know what I need to accomplish. I have big goals and I just put one foot in front of the other and I'm not tired because I have activity happening. I have a flow. I have energy. I don't have starts and stops and I don't have time to relax and sit down and get sleepy and lose that momentum. The momentum is the thing. So most people are tired from inactivity rather than too much activity. That has really, really helped me. Now, when it comes to the last note to understand on this topic, to slow down in order to go fast, I always like to refer things back to training because I feel like a lot of people can relate to training for something. We all played team sports or individual sports growing up, and this is just a great way, but you can apply it to anything, right? But when it comes to training, so I'm training for a marathon right now. And one thing that really helps me during this training, because there are long runs. The longest run I'm going to do is about 24 miles. This Sunday, I'm scheduled to do 16 miles. So these are long runs. These are 2 hours out in the world just running, right? And what served me very well is you never, and I can't stress this enough, you never focus on the finish line. You never pick your head up and ask yourself, how far away is the finish line? How much longer do I have to go? There's nothing more demoralizing than trying to understand where the finish line is when you're in the middle of doing the workout or the race. I ran the half Ironman with a good buddy of mine. His name is Micah, and he'll tell you the story as well. We both had very different biking experiences. You're on the bike for 54 miles. It took me 3 hours. And when I was on the bike, it takes a long time, right? 3 hours on a bicycle riding through La Quinta, California. It just takes forever. And I had the mindset of focus on very good form. How good is your form here? I was focused very much on my nutrition. Every 15 minutes was a sip, every 30 minutes was a goo, and form, nutrition, and lastly, checkpoints. So I see that mountain way down there. I know that's where we're heading. I'm going to put my head down, focus on my form, focus on my nutrition. And then when I pick my head up and we're at that mountain, that's great. That's my next checkpoint. That's what we're striding towards. And I did that for the whole 3 hours. And when I got off the bike, I felt great. I felt so good. I never did a bike that long before, but because I was focused on having great form, focused on my nutrition, and focused on hitting checkpoints, it kept my mind so free and so energized and just in the pocket in the game. Now, Micah, he had a very different experience because he downloaded with me after the race. Now, Micah, after the first 15 miles, which don't get me wrong, it's 15 miles, right? That's a long way. It started to become very real to him how long he was going to be on a bike, his words. It started to become very real how long he was going to be on that bicycle. And when that thought entered his brain, the levity of the situation overwhelmed him. And he started not to panic, but to start to feel his joints and his muscles getting tired. He started to feel his lungs getting tired. He started to look for stations for water and bathroom and snack because, man, I'm going to be out here for a long time. I got a long way to go. The finish line's so far away. And really, it's not the physical. We physically train the same way. It's all the mental of, man, I'm so far away from this thing. And that is so true in life. When you start your year and you say, I want to accomplish this year, what happens is you realize how far away it is and you get demoralized and you find yourself in a unmomentous mood. And then you kind of let go of the rope and it doesn't happen for you anymore. That happens in your job. That happens in your financial goals. I'm so far away. It doesn't matter. The pizza won't matter here on my cheat meal. Me spending the money on something stupid is not going to matter on the grand scheme of things because I'm so far away anyways. That's how people think, right? So never focus on the end. Never focus on how far away you are from the mountain. And if you want to see if this is true, the challenge to you is to go actually try to climb a mountain. In Arizona, we have plenty of them, right? They're more hikes than anything, but you can climb a mountain and go to Camelback Mountain and then sit at the base and look all the way up and just focus on, wow, I'm very far away from this mountain right now, and just see how you feel. It's not a good feeling. It's like, it's demoralizing. It doesn't make you want to take that next step. It makes you want to think like, do I even want to do this? But Conversely, if you go back the next day and you say to yourself, I am never going to look up. I will not look up at the mountain once. All I'm going to do is focus on putting one foot in front of the other. And I'm going to make sure that when one foot goes in front of the other, it's the most perfect foot in front of the other that there could be. The climbing is the most perfect form that I can do. My breathing is going to be so in tune with what needs to happen every single step I take. And I'm going to hit little checkpoints along the way, but I'm never going to look up. I could be on this mountain all day long. It does not matter. I could be on this mountain for a week. I don't care. I'm just going to put one foot in front of the other. And when I get there, I get there. Not a big deal. And what you'll find is you'll be so surprised how quick you make it up that mountain. You'll be so surprised at how good you feel when you make it up the mountain. You're going to say to yourself, I'm already here. Holy crap, we're there. And that is the thing. That is the trick, is to never look at the top, focus on your form, and focus on checkpoints, because that's how you build momentum, and that's how you allow yourself, give you the grace to slow down in order to go fast. So I'm going to slow down in order to go fast on my Sunday. I challenge you to do the same thing. Hopefully this helps. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you guys later.